Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. What is the key to understanding and connecting with your child? If you're the parent of a neurodivergent child, you'll want to listen to this episode with licensed marriage and family therapist Lafaya Mitchell. Lafaya is the mother of 3 children, 2 of whom are autistic. This episode is part 2 of our conversation, and we discuss the different levels of autism acceptance and how they are tied to a parent's personal growth, common struggles of parents trying to understand their child's needs, hidden effects of family dynamics, why the expression problem child is itself problematic, cultural sensitivity and how the Black American community responds to Lafaya's program, and one of the most rewarding experiences she's ever had while working with children on the spectrum. In this episode, discover what's possible when your responses are truly aligned with your intentions. And now I present you, Lafaya Mitchell. And Lafaya, you also talk about the different levels of acceptance. And we know that it's important for neurodiverse kids to feel accepted, especially by their parents, to help improve that self-esteem and know that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're not bad kids. So could you break down those 3 levels of acceptance and walk us through the differences between them?
Yes. Now, before I get into that, 3 levels of acceptance I brought in because I brought in the concept of idealizing the false child. So you're expecting the neurotypical child, and that's not what you get. So now you have to grieve the idealized child and accept and learn how to live with the child that you have, right? Because there's so much, and I can't say this enough, too many parents out there comparing kids to other kids, or even themselves when they were kids, and all of this. We want all of this to go away because your child cannot be someone they're not. That's one, and they're perfectly wonderful as they are, and now it becomes your job to pull out their strengths, not expect that they have the strengths of others, right? And so that's just one. But the 3 levels of acceptance, once you go through your grieving process, which if you guys just look it up, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but DABDA. Okay, it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? And now we're going over acceptance, and I broke that down into 3 levels. There's like what I call slight acceptance first. And this area, when you're in slight acceptance, then you're like, now you're moving out of that space of denial, trying to understand your child as a different child, those kind of things. So that's getting into the slight acceptance, right? The partial acceptance is now you have eliminated from your language like comparisons to other children. That's when you've entered in a partial acceptance. Why can't you just those kind of go away.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a why. Now it's no longer why can't you just, it's just okay, well, this behavior here is not going to cause success for you. So how do we create the bridge to get you into behavior that will help cause you to be successful? That's partial acceptance. Full acceptance is now you're no longer judging anything. And full acceptance takes for you to fully accept self first. This is me getting into now, you have to do some serious self-actualization work to get to full acceptance, because a larger portion of our judgment towards others it starts with self. If we're easier on ourselves, we're not judgmental, we're willing to give ourselves those, that forgiveness and that next time and room to make mistakes. And actually, you guys, I get into weird spaces, so words bother me sometimes, but mistakes, I don't feel like there are any, because I feel like we all have an opportunity to learn something. And I know that seems flighty or whatever, but I don't care, because if you see a so-called mistake, which is supposed to be something negative, right, as something to learn from, and you learn a little bit and you do a little better the next time because you learned the bit you needed to, then it becomes a wonderful thing. Like it becomes a stepping stone as opposed to something, a drawback, right? But anyway, I said you have to do that work for self first. And then once you are full of that for yourself, then it will pour out of you towards others. So full acceptance requires like some serious personal growth work and never telling yourself, like never losing your keys and calling yourself all kinds of names because you lost your keys, or doing those kind of things. And then when you see others that are headed down a road that is going to cause them to be unhappy, then you will be more in the space of, hey, okay, so this right here didn't work out very well for you. How about we try it this way next time?
Mm-hmm.
But again, that requires a lot of work.
Yeah. Right. Well, what are some common struggles that you see with parents in trying to understand their child's needs?
Oh man, common struggles. I think one of the biggest common struggles is you're trying to draw from your experiences to understand their experience, as opposed to understanding their experiences as belonging to them. So then you're not putting the, well, I would have, or I used to, or whatever, put those into it. So I think that's usually like one of the biggest struggles for parents, is to move beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
because they have such a hard time not comparing. Like that is like one of the toughest things. And then I would say that probably common struggle number two is even dealing with the concept, because that's why I make it my first concept, because it's the most difficult concept. Find your calm. That really does upset many parents. They will say, well, how is that even possible when they're doing this, right? They give me all these extreme situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, it becomes possible when you start to grow to understand more and more that it doesn't serve any good purpose for you to feel really upset.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to, you're going to become a robot and not feel. It's just that I'm saying that now that you felt something, I want you to find your calm so that you can create a situation where you are actually impactful now when you interact with the other person. Because now you're in a space of, oh my goodness, okay, I want now your truest intentions, right? I want what's best for them, and this is not going to bring the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that find your calm piece just really irritates people quite often. So they're like, well, but doesn't that mean I'm letting them get away with it? So I really think kind of growing into the entire concept that I'm trying to give requires some work, because they're like, but I'm justified in how I feel. But does this justification serve you? And is it truly justified if it doesn't serve you? Because ultimately you're looking to get your needs met, and you're working against getting your own needs met by your reactions.
Yeah. And in the moment, it also requires a lot of perspective taking and putting yourself in your kid's shoes. So
Yes.
this leads to my next question, which, in your first book, you describe a situation with a young boy and a blue tunnel. And you talk about that as actually being one of the most rewarding experiences you've ever had working with children on the spectrum. So could you share that story with us?
Oh man, I love Blue Tunnel Boy. He was actually the first child I've ever worked with on the spectrum. Like he was one of the first cases given to me by the intensive outpatient program. He was completely nonverbal, non-responsive to things happening outside of himself, mostly in his own world, basically, as they say. And at that time, I started to try to really research, because I'm like, I wasn't taught in school how to deal with this at all. So, and I like to do a good job. So I started to do a lot of research, and a lot of the research that I found out there, I was like, this is not going to help him. And so I was like, I don't know what to do now at this point. And so instincts kind of kicked in with him, and I understood him. So he would take this blue tunnel, and every time I would try to talk to him, he would pick it up and put it over his head, like over his head and a portion of his like shoulders and stuff. Right, he fit inside this little, it's like a little flexi blue tunnel. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I would come in, and I'm like, man, you don't want to talk to me. That's all. I'm sitting there thinking, he doesn't want to talk to me. And I was like, and I don't blame him, because most of the time I don't want to talk to people either. He's just more honest, right? He's just more honest about it. And so then one day I was like almost at my wit's end. I was like, I don't know what to do with this kid. And I was talking to him, put the tunnel over his head again. He threw the tunnel down. I looked down at the tunnel. Instincts told me, pick it up and see what it's like in there for him, right? Like, why don't you check it out? So I put the tunnel over my own head and I looked around and I was like, I can see why you like it in here. It drowns out sound. You can't see me. I can't see you. All you see is blue, right? And I'm sitting here like engaged in being interested in why he was interested in the tunnel. And then, of course, I realized, okay, Lafaya, you're in the office with a little 7-year-old and he's not being monitored because you have a tunnel over your head. so I pulled the tunnel down. And when I pulled the tunnel down for the first time ever, he was looking at me. And he was looking at me like, crazy lady, what are you doing? But, he was looking at me. And so he was looking at me and I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, heck no. First instinct. Oh, heck no. If I don't get to look at you, you don't get to look at me. And I pull the tunnel back up. And then when I pulled it back down, this time he had the slightest smile in his eyes. Like, what is this crazy lady doing? But he was looking at me. And then it just turned into this like weird little game of peekaboo with this. But it was so funny because after I did that, it opened something up to where now, and it's slowly but surely, I'm not saying it happened in a day, but slowly but surely, and it didn't take much time, he was allowing me to play next to him at first. Because at first he would just move wherever, if I was there, he was moving, right? But then he would be playing with something and I would sit next to him, or a couple of things, he would take one of them and throw it at me, basically. And I would start playing with it like, oh, okay, oh, you gave me something to play with? Yay, I'm excited now. And then it slowly, but it moved into then cooperative play, where we would play whatever he wanted to play. And then it grew to where then it was we would play what he wanted to play, then he would play what I wanted to play. And then we'd take turns and it kind of grew. And within it took less than 6 months, he was starting to speak. He was starting to now talk to other people. He was starting to engage with his mom. He was engaging at school. The teacher went crazy the day that one of the children on the playground fell, and he walked over to the child and asked him, "Are you okay?" and helped them up. The teacher went ballistic. Like, what? What happened? What's going on? All this. And it just, it really was just kind of entering into his world and then him taking an interest in entering into mine, which led to now it kind of created the bridge for him to interact with others. So most rewarding work.
Yeah, I love that story. And it's a good reminder for a lot of professionals out there who are struggling with these so-called hard to engage with kids. Like I get asked these questions a lot too. Like I have no idea how to connect with him. He just doesn't like anything. There's nothing reinforcing in the room. It's like, well, you have to be a little bit more creative. Watch what he's interested in, meet him at his level, find his strengths and build on that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And this also comes with a measure of understanding, especially, as professionals, it has to be understood that it's been overwhelming oftentimes for these kids who, are not interested in the things that you want them to become interested in. They've been overwhelmed by, just like I said, the sensory nightmare of dealing with this world, and then the disappointment. Now, this is from the beginning. It just depends and it's tough. So, because I want people to understand, I'm never trying to parent blame. You can only operate according to your knowledge base, right? And so it's just, if you're having a struggle, then there are more things that you need to learn, is what we have to truly understand. And we have to be willing to move out of what we know, even if it makes so much sense for every other kid in the world but ours. If it doesn't work for our kid, then we need to find a new way, right? And so it's just so very, very important to meet them where they are. Even if it's something that you really, really don't like, just understand that you like being able to engage with your kid. Like, for professionals out there, it's understand that you like to feel productive in your work, right? And so then you're not taking and trying to, like they always say, to put the square peg in the round hole, right?
Yeah.
You're not trying to put the square peg into the round hole anymore, which is ineffective, useless, really. quite honestly, right? So move into a space where it's like, okay, maybe there is a new area of understanding that I need to get to in order to help them.
Yeah. Switching topics, Affair, in your third book, you talk about the hidden effects of family dynamics. Can you talk about what some of those issues are?
They run really deep, and this is where it gets kind of tough if I haven't been doing the work with people, because they think, oh, this is just blaming us, and I'm really not. Oftentimes when you have issues with your children, when you have behavior issues with your children, then there tends to be some kind of disruption in other relationships. So, like with the couples, oftentimes having a problem child will actually be the glue that keeps the couple together, because now they don't have to focus on the issues that they really have with one another. They're focused on the behaviors of the child, right? So that's something they can align on. So then their relationship is kind of built around the disordered child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I found often is that once we get the child's behaviors improved, then the issues that were with the couple, they really do start to come out. So either it's, if you have more than one child or another is acting out. So if we get one that's no longer acting out, there's a new one who takes the child's place who's now acting out, right? Or if we get all the children, where they need to be, where the behaviors where it needs to be, then you start to see the couple's issues come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are some of the, that's just one of the primary, right? When we talk about hidden effects of family dynamics, that's just one of the primaries that I brought up. They often don't like that because they don't want to take a look at, and this is where I get into why I always say the real truth, understanding the real truth, right? Because we all have our truths that are easier for our egos.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the real truth, right? And if you deal in the real truth a little, you can make things move along a little more quickly for everything else.
So, as a marriage and family therapist, do you also help the couples in their own problems, or do
Oh
you?
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. I have to. I don't have a choice when I work with. It's never that I work with a problem child. I work with the entire unit, and sometimes it's beyond the unit and the support system outside of it, because, or if there is no support system, then we have to create one, of course. But I work with siblings, I work with the parents in their couple situation. Oftentimes when you have your problem child, then you'll also have two parents who have very different perspectives on what should be happening with that child. You usually have your overcompensator, right? Both are overcompensating for the other. So one feels like the one parent is too mean, and the other one feels like the other parent is too lenient. So they both overcompensate in those areas, which creates an extreme lack of balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then now you have more problems with your kid because they can't take seriously what either of you are saying because you aren't giving them a clear message,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. And I do want to point out, because I can see you on video right now. So, whenever you are saying disorder and whenever you're saying problem child, you're putting up these kinds of air quotes.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
because those words, they annoy me,
Mm-hmm.
because oftentimes you don't have a problem child if you're not a problem yourself. I don't mean to, like I said, I never mean to parent blame, but I'm saying that we can always take a look at, actually, we always have to take a look at our part in the interactions. If we don't take a look at our part, our individual parts in the interaction, and we're always looking at what the other's doing outside of us, right? Then what ends up happening is we don't get the results that we want, because we can only change us. And when we change us, then it changes how others relate to and respond to us. It changes the dynamic.
Mm-hmm. And I think also there's something to be said about using this kind of language when trying to move towards acceptance. Like, if you are describing your child as being problematic, are you really fully accepting them for who they are?
Exactly.
It's not their fault. Sometimes these very hypersensitive children can't help when they're going to be confronted with some kind of sensory overload. It's not fair to be even saying that they are challenging. You can kind of call the situation challenging maybe, but I just hear from a lot of autistic adults who are speaking up about this trauma of always having to change themselves for the people around them.
Yes.
And it affects them when they become adults. There are high rates of anxiety and depression and suicide with the autistic community, unfortunately.
Yes.
And I think it starts at a young age with the language that they're hearing in the house. If they're hearing their parents calling them problem children, what does that do to them and their confidence?
Yes, yes. And oh, that's so perfectly said. And then you have to think about it when you're in the know yourself, know your child space. Okay. So then knowing yourself, you have to understand that when you call someone a problem child, then that's exactly what they're going to be in your mind.
Mm.
And then you end up with self-fulfilling prophecy as well. So you're going to make the thing happen that you think exists. That's how it works,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then unintentionally, through your reactions, you are actually promoting the thing you don't want. So you're putting too much energy into the thing that you don't want, giving it power, as opposed to now taking the energy, same energy, because you know you can just divert it in a different direction and focus more on the things that you do want. So, like I said earlier, I have two great children. So remember, I said that earlier about my two youngest. They would argue a lot, and so my response to them would be, "Oh, I have two beautiful children, two great children." So the only assumption I can make is that if you're over arguing, is that you might be overtired or there's something else going on with you. And I would suggest that you maybe deal with the thing that's whatever's going on with you, so that you don't get yourselves in a space where now it's like you won't like the assumptions that I make. Because if I think you're overtired, that means, oh, earlier bedtime today.
Mm-hmm.
Not as a punishment, but because I want to bring out my beautiful kids
Mm-hmm.
that are struggling right now, right? And so then you move out of being punitive and you move into kind of doing what we're supposed to do, which is to teach. These behaviors benefit you more. And if you need help getting to those behaviors, I'm going to help you. I'm not going to assume that you suck as a kid to do that either, because that doesn't benefit either of us. I'm going to assume that there's something else going on that is impeding your ability to get yourself under control. Right?
Yeah.
And it becomes such a different thing. Oh, what did my daughter tell me the other day? It was so, okay. I sometimes have her, and that's one of the ways that I kind of help to grow her self-esteem, is I would actually have her help me with my neurodiverse group. So she's extremely shy, like to a like hide behind your leg, Velcro behind your leg, get the pillar off kind of shy, right? And so, but in order to kind of break her out of it, I would say, hey, can you come help me? I have some other kids that are really shy, right? And I want you to help me out with the groups, right? So as a younger child, I would have her help me with the groups. She's older now, and I had her help me with a teen group. And because of the whole COVID thing, she wasn't acclimated anymore to trying to socialize. It's effort for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so funny. She went to the group and she was just completely like kind of shut down. She was drawing a full mural on her arm because she's an artist. Like I told you, she was just like not engaged at all. And I was like, babe, I sent you in there to get the group going, whatever. And she said to me this. She said, Mom, it's been a year since I've been around people, and you know that I don't do the social thing well. You have to give me time to reacclimate, basically. And I was like, oh, my bad. I was like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But I was so impressed and excited about her, ability to verbalize that, because those are the things.
Yeah.
That's how you move your children into the space that you want them in, is by teaching, not judging, not being frustrated or irritated because they're not doing something the right way, but by saying to them, hey, babe, how about you try it this way next time, because this way really doesn't work, right? It's just an entirely different way. It doesn't work well, right, for you getting the results that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's teaching her how to self-advocate also.
Yes.
For her own needs. Yeah.
Yes. In responding in alignment with your truest intentions, one of my favorite things to give to parents is this, what I call the power talk formula. It's basically when dot, 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 like this unlovely, behavior or whatever, it causes dot, 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 a reaction that is not really going to cause you to be happy, right? And I know that's not your intention, so that we can get rid of this whole "you're doing this thing on purpose" attitude. Not that people are saying it, but their reactions are conveying a thought, or an assumption that the misbehavior or whatever is being done on purpose, like they're doing it to them, right? And I know that's not your intention. So please, dot, 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 new acceptable behavior. So when you yell at me, I don't know, when you yell at me, it causes me to be less inclined to hear what you're saying because I can't process it because I'm upset. And I know that's not your intention. I know you want me to hear you. So could you please get yourself into a place where you can kind of lower your voice, because then I can process what you're saying better.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when it causes, and I know that's not your intention. So please.
Yeah. That's a really helpful framework. And you also talk about avoiding potential pothole moments. Could you describe what you mean by a pothole moment?
I want to say, like, probably biggest pothole moments come from personalization, first of all. So just please work on not personalizing the behaviors of others. Please keep their behaviors about them, and not in a negative way, just in a way that you can be helpful, right? That's one.
Mm-hmm.
But then another pothole that I love to mention to parents, and I want to make sure everybody out there hears, is oftentimes, especially for children on the autism spectrum, the novelty doesn't wear off. And that, actually, I don't want to say especially for children on the spectrum. This is a neurodiverse situation here, but the novelty often does not wear off. So if there's a situation where something happened negatively, hey, like they tried a new food and it made them feel sick, for example, right? Then the idea of trying a new food, even if it's a different food than what they tried in the first place, can potentially be very upsetting to them, because they will feel as if trying new foods is the problem, right? They will feel like, now I'm going to get sick if I try this new food because that's what happened before, right? So then their emotional reaction to being asked can be very high, because they're feeling what they felt back the first time when they tried the food that was gross to them.
Mm-hmm.
But then this can go the same for arguments. So if before it was a big fight to have them do their chores, for example, then even if you've improved the way you approach them about it, like now you have the languaging down, it's improved, right? Then you may still get, even though your language has changed, a strong reaction from them, because now it's like as soon as you bring it up, it takes them back into when if there's a lot of argument in the past for it. Okay. That's a huge pothole. So as you start to change, then you can become frustrated because you see that you think, oh, well, it doesn't make a difference if I have a bad reaction or try to have a good response. They're still reacting the same, right? So if you understand that there's a struggle with the novelty wearing off, then you make that now your new teachable moment, where you teach them how to decrease the emotional effects of the novelty not wearing off for them. Okay, even if the and languaging would be like, I know that this was an extremely tough time before. Like I would yell at you before, or I would, speak to you in, very upsetting tones, before about cleaning your room. I'm really trying to make changes with that. So if you could please just recognize that sometimes you have a hard time with, letting go of how it worked in the past. I really, really appreciate it if you noticed that I was trying, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then it really does. Or you really hated it when I yelled before. I'm trying so hard because you hate it when I yelled to say it in a different way to you. If you could help me out just a little bit, I really appreciate it because I'm trying to do better for you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then that helps too, you know?
Yeah. I like the name, the pothole moment. And, we have a pretty wide audience that's international. So I'd just like to explain what a pothole is for some people who might not know, right? And I think it's a really good analogy. because you have this paved road, right? So it's like you've established this relationship with your child through hard work. And then all of a sudden, there's a bump in the road, and a pothole is kind of like a hole caused by, some kind of overuse of tires or like rain, heavy rain. And so
Yeah, just some form of damage. Yes.
damage, right? And so then the car feels it when it goes over the pavement. It's like a kind of jolt. It's not as smooth anymore. So it's kind of like
Yes.
that in that interaction.
Yes. And the deeper the pothole, the more damage that can be done to the tires, to the vehicle.
Mm.
So then you might even find yourself stalled because you hit a big enough pothole, right? Right. So yeah, the analogy is I love the analogy because it sets you up to when you do have a bumpy moment that you're able to recognize it as such. So then you're like, oh shoot, okay, that was a pothole moment. Okay, now how much, and this is it, because this gives us power now. How much damage am I going to allow that to have inflicted, on our vehicle? Are we going to be able to keep moving through this and get back to smooth road, right? Or are we going to be stuck in this pothole?
Right. Yeah. So, Lafaya, you work with so many families, and I'm wondering how you practice cultural sensitivity with the different people that you work with and the different environments that they might live in.
Okay, so the thing that I've learned in the work that I do is that because it's about relationship, it really is successful across cultures because it really is getting to the now you're interacting with another human being in a way that respects how they function. So it built in it, the philosophy itself is the epitome of cultural sensitivity because now you're not dealing with a person based on your beliefs, how you've been acculturated. You're dealing with them based in how they relate. So you're learning how they relate so that you can relate to them where they are instead of where you think they should be. So I believe that it's like the epitome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I've been able to kind of take this and move it again beyond just parenting now into like staff development, that kind of thing, because we're addressing those areas just by nature of how we're responding to others now, and that with that non-judgmental attitude.
Do you see a difference across cultures, like specifically with the Black community, in how traditional parenting is and maybe how they respond to your approach?
There's a few groups that I work with now, but I work with groups that they're working in intergenerational trauma, and the intergenerational trauma is more of the Black experience, at least where I'm working, and they respond extremely well to my philosophy, and that's been kind of a very high point for me because I was nervous because I know how some of the Black community could be like, they don't need therapy, they need church, and different stuff like that, right? And not so I'm not trying to be, whatever, not trying to be rude, but I know how my community works, and it's been very well embraced. As a matter of fact, about 30 minutes from now, I will be at the program, the intergenerational program that I work with kids who have gang affiliations and all those kind of things, who grew up in very, very poor neighborhoods, very, tough experience for these kids. And we are working on COP and community relations. They're sitting in the room together with us to speak to officers to learn how to get along better and teach the officers how to get along better with them. And they listen. And I'll tell you, the Lafaya way is quite effective, and the kids even bring it up. They're learning how now to interact better with other people using more productive languaging, because the Lafaya way is all about not working against yourself. So if you hate the results that you've been getting, you hate getting into trouble, you hate all these things, then let's teach you a way to get more of what you want instead of more of what you don't want.
Yeah.
So, yes.
All right, Lafaya, I'd like to close with one last question. I mean, this has kind of been our whole conversation, but if you could just give one piece of advice to parents who are struggling to connect with their children, what would you say?
I would say that the best way to connect is to start where they are, is to really take an interest in what they're interested in. And quite honestly, to make that valid and important. So my biggest piece is if you can validate their experience, then they will be more inclined to validate yours.
All right. How can people learn more about you?
Now, to learn more about me, you can find me through the Lafaya Way everywhere. So if you go to lafayaway.com, first of all, you'll find everything it is that I do there. I have my YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/LafayaWay. You find me. Instagram, you find me under Lafaya_way. Facebook, you find me Lafaya Way. If you search Lafaya Way, you can find me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. This has been a really valuable conversation, and I hope many parents can apply these strategies when working with their kids and professionals too. Like as you were talking, I was like, oh, I could even do that like with my friends, like just any relationship that I have. So it's very widely applicable.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited about it. So, and for parents out there who are maybe looking to gain better responses from their children, I do have programs for you. We have our Parents Empowering Parents program. I am respectful of the fact that the parent is the expert. The parents are the experts. They're never missing it by a mile. My job is to teach them to inch them in the direction that they truly mean to go in the work that I do.
Right. Well, keep up everything that you're doing. It's so important for the communities that you're serving. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. If you enjoy this podcast and you'd like to support our mission, please take a moment to rate the show and leave a review. You'll be helping us to continue spreading autism awareness and acceptance around the world. Thanks for listening. Take care.